Hi and welcome. I'm Steve Martirano, and this is the Behavioral Corner. You're invited to hang with us as we discuss the ways we live today, the choices we make, the things we do, and how they affect our health and well-being. So you're on the corner, the Behavioral Corner. Please hang around a while. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Behavioral Corner. I'm Steve Martirano. I'm your host and guide. If you're watching this as well, I'm the fellow on your right, the pasty-looking one from the Northeast, and the fellow on the left, looking hale and hearty and tan, as most Floridians are, is our guest today, Peter Schorr. Peter is, of course, the CEO and founder of Retreat Behavioral Health. They, of course, are our underwriting partners, and we welcome Peter to the show. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Steve.
Pleasure to have you. For those of you just stumbling upon the Behavioral Corner, what we do is dedicate this program to everything because that's what affects behavioral health. So we're going to take a look today at something fascinating. When I started to hear about psychedelic therapy, well, first of all, I heard about psychedelics when I was a former hippie in another life. They were everywhere then, and I didn't think I'd live long enough to see it become a therapeutic model, but it apparently may be real soon. So we brought in an expert, not in psychedelics, but in treatment. And that's Peter, to talk about this growing sense of psychedelics as therapy. It's fascinating stuff. A little later on, Peter is going to touch upon with us this another growing movement in this country, mercifully, something that has to do with harm reduction. We'll tell you about that ahead. Peter, so let me see if I've got it right. Technically speaking, and we're talking about something that isn't really fully established yet, psychedelic therapy refers to the use of any psychedelic plant or drug as a treatment modality. Is that pretty much how you understand it?
That's what it is, yeah.
Okay. So let's tell people who might not know, what kind of drugs are we talking about that might ultimately become, therapeutic medicine?
So we're talking about S-ketamine, ketamine. Mm-hmm. We're talking about MDMA, which is ecstasy. Mm-hmm. You're talking about psilocybin, which is psilocybin, which is the magic mushrooms when I was a kid.
Right.
And all these to be used in microdosing, is how they say right now. Mm-hmm. But again, we have to look at our limbic system. And people who don't know what the limbic system is, it's a portion of our brain that controls emotions, it controls memory. And then there's all these pathways. And, when you're younger, when you're growing up, the brain is not really officially, mature until 21 to 25. So if you take these hallucinogens as a young kid, these pathways, what happens, and this has happened now too, it kind of mixes them up and kind of like a restart, kind of fresh. Mm-hmm. Psychedelic drugs take all those pathways and kind of confuse them. So your memories and emotions and your addiction and things like that, kind of get confused, and maybe you can jumpstart things. In theory, sounds pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. Sounds pretty good. Now, in our country, we have rules and regulations on how drugs are administered. They have to go through a process through the FDA, and it takes years and years and years. Now, ketamine has been used as anesthesia for years, forever. Now, someone came up with this idea that we can use these drugs for mental health patients. The MDMA is being used for PTSD patients and things like that. So ketamine, look at your hands like this. Ketamine is on one side, on your right side, right ketamine. Your left side is S-ketamine. Why is it S-ketamine? Since they're in Latin, means left side. That's what it is. So The right side of ketamine has been shown to cause lesions in rats. Okay? Mm-hmm. The left side, which we call ketamine light, has been approved to be used in a nasal spray.
As an anesthetic for children, right?
No, it's approved to be used as a nasal spray for what we're talking about in therapy.
Yeah, off label.
Off label, but it's approved. You can use something that's everything else is not approved for that use. Mm-hmm. It's all experimental. Mm-hmm. And we don't have enough information yet. I mean, because we're saying The right side causes lesions in rats. Together, it was used as anesthesia, which is used once, not on a daily basis. So we don't know what the ramifications are going to be on long-term use.
Yeah.
So whether or not it's good or not, let's figure out what's the long-term effects of these drugs that we're going to use to make people feel better today. And we have a history of doing that.
Yeah. We have unfortunately, our history of knowledge about these drugs unfortunately comes out of their recreational use. I mean, ketamine was a club drug.
Ketamine is an anesthesia. It's not. It was used afterwards.
Afterwards, right?
But it has been used.
Yes,
legally.
Therapeutic. And MDMA is ecstasy. That was a club drug for a very long time. So, and LSD, by the way, we didn't mention LSD as well. The mushrooms are also a part of this mix. All plant-based hallucinogenic drugs are ultimately going to be used, I think, or tried anyway. They are now, but as Peter points out, in a very, well, not so much underground because it's very public, but it's illegal. It's just illegal in this country to fool with these things. So, Peter,
it's not illegal because it's legal drugs for different uses. That's how they get around it. If it was illegal, a doctor's not going to prescribe something that's illegal.
Well, doctors don't prescribe psilocybin, do they?
No. Well, yes, they're using psilocybin now in microdosing for depression.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know where they get it, but they,
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I had to go find someone who sold it.
Well, you didn't have the internet when you were a kid. Right. Neither did I. You can get it on the internet now. That leads me to my next question about psych. I agree with you completely. There's a lot to know about brain chemistry in general. We learn more every day about how the brain really works. And I believe, as I think you do as well, that our problems are there. And drugs alter that, and alcohol alters that, and mental health, messes with our brain. So the more we know about that, why shouldn't these drugs, who we know have a pronounced effect on our perception and brain, not also wind up being helpful? But I look at what's happening now, and it's something like a land rush. It's something like they struck gold in them Tar Heels, because if you look at the right places on the internet or your Facebook news feed, and you put in psychedelic therapy, you're going to be bombarded with marketing messages that I'd like your impression on. My impression of them is that many of them are wildly inappropriate. They're reckless marketing of this stuff, and the public's not aware of it. How do you feel?
Well, like anything, people jump on the bandwagon but not even knowing what they're selling. It's something that's hot. Let's go do that. We'll sort it out later. And that the same thing happened with OxyContin, 6 years ago, when they said that this is a great drug for pain. It's not addictive, this and that. We walked along that fine line, and we said, okay, you're right, let's do it. Now it's caused a pandemic in our country of amazing numbers, and it's not as extreme, but we don't know the full term effects. What are you doing when you're changing the pathways in your brain by using medication? What's the long term effects? We don't know, because it hasn't been around a long time, so we just don't know.
Compare the process that is employed to okay these drugs. In this case, what will psilocybin have to go through till it gets to the status of Vivitrol or a drug like that?
Right. So the FDA does all these kind of testings. It's years and years. People complain about, we don't get drugs out fast enough. That's in our protection, to go through that process. And do they always get it right? No. Obviously, we've seen that. They don't always get it right. It's not just OxyContin that haven't gotten right. There's many drugs, but the majority, and great majority, 99% or 98%, are, when used through that testing, the long-term effects are mitigated, and we don't have them. Right now, we don't have that. We need to go through this process. And again, you're using a drug that one side of it has caused lesions in the brains of a rat. All right? No, to me, that's a red flag comes up. I mean, what am I doing? I'm taking something that caused lesions in a rat. What is it going to do in a human? Well, I don't know. Tell you in a couple of years.
So, in that context, how do you react when you see, as I have, websites that say you can administer this stuff in the comfort of your own home, and they'll have some guy in a Barcalounger with a sleep mask on and headphones, and I guess he's just sprayed himself with ketamine. I mean, is that responsible?
Not only is it irresponsible, I don't think it's legal. I mean, I think that there has to be some kind of control over that. And how can you get a drug that's not legal other than for a different kind of use? And I don't even know if you can even buy that. But again, we're setting our society up for a big surprise later down the road.
The way I spoke to a couple of psychiatrists nearby me who do both TMS and ketamine, and they're medical doctors, they're psychiatrists, and they can prescribe it, but they've never said that they would prescribe it to someone and tell them to take it home and use it. I also see, now this is not strictly speaking a psychedelic therapy, but TMS, transcranial magnetic. I've seen home kits for that online. To do this in the comfort of your home. This is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we do use DTMS, which is deep tissue one.
Mm-hmm.
I tried it. It gives you such a headache.
Does it really?
Do it right, it's not going to be effective. But there's a lot of people who really, have gained a lot of help with these things, and that's something that it's been tested and retested for years. It came out, but it's not a drug you're ingesting, so it's something a little different. Peter
Schorr is our guest. Peter is the CEO and founder of Retreat Behavioral Health. I mean, you're a great guy. First of all, your expertise in this field is valuable. But you're also this is the company you started, and I know what your reputation is. You guys are nothing but best practices guys, and you're trying to do it right. And I see some of this as altering the way treatment facilities like Retreat might have to change the way they do business. So psychedelic drugs and therapy, it's not something you're, I would guess, particularly frightened about. You've seen medicine used before in drug and alcohol treatment, right?
Sure, of course. Many different.
And so what has to happen here first? Doesn't the government have to take some of these drugs, these hallucinogens, off the Schedule I narcotics list first?
They will have to, yes. The whole thing is this, though, again, we're a society, we do what's called medical assisted treatment. So we give medicine to replace something that they take. We're a society that for everything we do, the minute we don't feel well, what do we ask for? Give me a pill to make me feel better.
Yeah.
Give me something to make me feel better. So we've always been that society. We've always done things like that. But if you don't do the therapy that go along with that, what's going to change? It's the same thing when Suboxone came out, buprenorphine came out 20-something years ago. It was never intended for a doctor just to give someone a prescription to go home, to do it all by themselves, and never have to be part of a treatment program or any therapy or anything like that. Never was it supposed to be like that. And it's still not supposed to be like that. There's supposed to be a therapeutical piece of it when you do that. And if we don't continue that, and this is, psychiatrists are going to ruin it for themselves too.
Yeah, well, that's
you give a pill to someone, magic, great, but that's not going to happen.
I had the occasion to tell someone who was talking to me about this. I said, not only could it potentially be a problem for your medical practice, but you don't want to go around being thought of as the guy in the tie-dye medical jacket. I mean, you don't want to be Dr. Psychedelic.
Well, they'll be the tie-dye prison outfit. They don't like what they're doing. That's the problem.
So, all right. So, in terms of what Retreat does and other well-run and honest brokers in treatment facilities, you've faced this before. You have to knock down these notions that there's a magic bullet and you can't do it just one and done. This is that again, isn't it? I mean, you're not dismissing the potential for some of these things, psychedelics, to be very, very beneficial, but you're just telling people to slow down on this.
Yeah, I don't dismiss any kind of therapies that's going to be better for people. And again, all I want to make sure is that it's safe. I believe, look, people suffer from depression. People suffer from PTSD. There's many different things that people suffer from, and they deserve to find something that's going to eliminate that. But I believe that we need to do further testing before we just jump on something and say, this is the answer. Because I don't know the long-term effects, especially with young kids.
Yeah.
You know, young kids that I know young kids that throwing on this ketamine like it's candy, you know, because they're a little depressed. But, you know, their brains are not formed yet, not complete. So what kind of damage are we doing to that limbic system by bombarding it with psychedelics?
Well, I reached out to you because over the past 2 weeks, I have just been inundated with PR firms that want to come on the podcast, and they're pushing this or that, and they're talking about microdosing and this and that, and then the stuff online. The guy in the Barca Lounger doing ketamine at home, I just thought somebody should knock on their door and say, you can't do this, it's wrong. But anyway, there's a momentum, and we can see it. We've seen it before. You've seen it before. There's a momentum. And
think about what you're saying about someone sitting in a chair administering their own psychedelic. Think about that. Who's using that? Someone who's using any kind of psychedelics or any kind of drugs is someone who's in crisis, right? And when you're in crisis, you don't make the best decisions in the world. So if you're taking something and there's an unlimited amount, and you can take something that could really be detrimental to your health, when you're in that state, you're not in your right mind. You don't know, you're not making the right decisions. You could take something that's going to either kill you or affect you medically for long term.
Yeah.
It needs to be watched. It needs to be done on a professional manner. And again, further testing.
If I've learned nothing in the years I've worked with you guys and before you, it's that this whole notion of getting well, whether it's from mental illness, and certainly in substance abuse issues. What I've learned is that it's not one thing or two things. In fact, it's a process that goes on. And we talk about this all the time. So whatever these drugs' potential winds up being, they still will only be part of a process.
Hopefully. I mean, I hope that's what people understand, that it is part of a process. You look at it like it's a puzzle, and each piece is important for the whole. And if we look at something that's just going to be, here's your magic pill, everything's going to go away, we're going to set ourselves up for a real disappointment.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this moment in time feeds right into a very shortened attention span and a lot of anxiety and a lot of sense of, I need something now, I need something now. So we've got to be very careful. Just this last note about psychedelic treatment. I saw in Forbes the other day the formation of something called the American Psychedelic Practitioners Association. Apparently a group of professionals who advocate effective treatment using this stuff. It's interesting. They're forming a professional organization around substances that aren't even available or ready to use. And at the end of the article, it says that the APPA is right now in the process of recruiting members, which I thought, so you form the organization, then you go
which they'll find. I mean, they're going to find.
No, it's good. Yeah.
They're going to find people who believe it. Look, the mission is correct. They're trying to help people who are suffering. But the method has to be proven. That's all. That's all we're saying. We're not saying don't do it, don't use it. Just show us it's safe, show us long-term effects, and show us what we do in conjunction with that.
Incidentally, all that has to happen before the insurance companies will pay for anything anyway. So we might as well just be very patient. Finally, Peter, I wanted to ask you about harm reduction. I know harm reduction is something that seems self-evidently obvious, self-evident and positive. It seeks to just slow down, if not stop, the toll that drugs take in terms of deaths. You'd think, well, harm reduction, what's wrong with that? Well, it runs up against, as you know, a lot of resistance because people think it's enabling people to use drugs rather than trying to save their lives. I bring it up to you now because Rhode Island just yesterday, according to the New York Times, became the first state to legalize drug consumption sites in the state. Is that a good idea?
In my opinion, no. Harm reduction, though. Look, years ago, and I've been in this field for 40 something years, Steve. You were only a little baby when I came in.
Yes, I know, just a child.
But when I came in the field, going into this field, your one goal is, I'm going to fix everyone. I'm going to cure everyone. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Over the years, as you grow and mature yourself and have an understanding, especially in this field, we've seen such a change in the drugs that people are using. They're so much more powerful today than they were, 5-10 years ago, let alone 30 or 40 years ago. So what we're seeing now is a overdose death of over 100,000 people from using illicit drugs. So what do we do as a society? We have to come up with some kind of formula how we're going to do harm reduction, because people are harming themselves and they're dying. It's no longer they're just using drugs, and sitting on a doorstep and falling asleep. Now they're dying. So now what do we do? How do we fix that? So there's many different ways. I mean, we try many different kind of techniques. One is medically assisted treatment, is using it for opiate addicts, is using, methadone or Suboxone, buprenorphine, whatever we can use for harm reduction, so we can get them to that point. So now, within conjunction of using these kind of different assisted treatments, is what about the therapy piece of it? What are we going to do on that side? Because we can't just say, here's a pill, and the same thing we're doing with psychedelics, and you're going to get better. You might feel better right now, but in the long run, and I think we've had this discussion before, Steve, how substance use disorder, 8 out of 10 times is a symptom of a mental health disorder. So if you give someone a pill for the addiction piece, what's changed in the mental health piece? Zero.
And nothing.
Zero. Right. So you need to have the therapy part of it also. Great, they're not going to be using drugs if they have something to take the drugs, but that's not going to last, because after a while, the depression or whatever is going to pop up is going to go like, wait, I need something to make me feel better. And this medically assisted treatment is not the answer for me right now. I need something that's going to anesthetize me. I can't feel this way anymore. So we have to
it's almost a form of triage. Stop the bleeding, and then get to what's causing it.
I use that word a lot. We kind of triage our patients, especially when they come in, especially patients who are constant relapsers and things like that. Especially in Florida, what I've seen is a lot of patients, when they come into treatment, the reason they're coming into treatment, they don't have any more money to buy drugs on the outside, and they still have insurance under their parents. They don't have a place to eat. They don't have a place to sit. They don't have anything. Let me go in. They'll give me Suboxone or whatever. I won't feel bad, and I'll stay there for a week. Get myself feeling better. I'll go back out, and 9 out of 10 times they're using again.
Yeah,
those aren't the people who are coming to treatment to get better.
It's a small window you guys have to
Very
get them,
small. And we have to pounce on that and make sure that we can try to convince them in that short period of time that there's a better way.
Yeah. It's not. We're not a Motel 6 for rest up, get strong, and go back out.
Things is when parents come and they go, fix my child. I'd love to say I'm going to fix your child, but I'm going to help fix your child. I'm going to do that, but there's a process that goes along with it.
Yeah. All right. So, Peter, to put a finer point on this harm reduction thing, so I understand your position. You obviously support harm reduction in the context of what you guys do. Do you provide fentanyl strips to people? Is that so that they can test that at least the drugs they're using isn't full of fentanyl? Do you advocate not for you guys, but do you advocate clean needle exchange programs and stuff like that? Does that all make sense to you?
It makes sense to me on a basis of not spreading disease and things like that. But how about at a safe shooting site? How about having Suboxone there or something else, or a doctor there? And go, hey, wait, you don't have to shoot up. Let's get you on this. Let's do this. Let's try to do that. I mean, but it's not. You're giving someone a room and go, here, go shoot up in there.
Can you can you ever envision a time in the future when Retreat would, in addition to every other modality they offer in terms of long-term treatment, provide a place where people could still use drugs while they get treatment?
No, never. ever, 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 ever.
Well, that couldn't be any clearer. It's sort of not what you guys do, right?
No, the opposite. Our job is, and again, we talk about harm reduction. It's hard to tell an 18-year-old kid, who's going to start college in the fall, that you can't drink with your buddies and this and that. You can't. It's hard. So you gotta. What's harm reduction in that side? You got to show them how to do it responsibly. Can you drink responsible as much as you can? But you have to show them the downside of it. So what we do is when we have young patients, you'll have an older patient say, you don't want to be doing this when you're my age, or just seeing what it is. But their brain, remember, an 18-year-old kid who's using drugs, and if they started when they're 12, they're 12. That's what they are. So you're trying to convince someone who's an adult body that to do something when you're really talking to a 12-year-old.
Yeah, there's no stop sign in a teenager's mind. Peter Schorr, founder, CEO, Retreat Behavioral Health, our great partner. We appreciate your support very, very much. Thanks for adding a lot of clarity to psychedelic therapy and your position on harm reduction. And that leaves me with just one favor to ask. And I know your answer is going to be moved to Florida, but my God, I look like a ghost. I mean, it's ridiculous. Look at you.
Your problem was, Steve, you chose to have a career in radio.
Yeah, right, kept me inside.
You would have had a career in TV. You wouldn't know how to put makeup on. Didn't someone once tell you have the perfect face for radio?
No, come on. There's no makeup that's going to help me.
And
Peter Schorr,
you can come visit us too. You know that.
Yes, I can, and I should. Well, as soon as you guys get a handle on the weather down there, and good for you guys for dodging that bullet. Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Peter. We appreciate your time, and thank you all as well. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and like us on app. Hey, by the way, push the subscribe button. That's a big deal. I'm learning this as I go along. It's wonderful that you like us and you follow us and you share us, but we need you to push the subscription button. Then you'll get it, every week. That's it for us here on the Behavioral Corner. Catch you next time. Bye, Peter.
Thanks, Steve. Bye.
Retreat Behavioral Health has proudly been serving the community for over 10 years. Here at Retreat, we believe in the power of connection and quality care. We offer comprehensive, holistic, and compassionate treatment from industry-leading experts. Call 855-802-6600 or visit us at www.retreatbehavioralhealth.com to begin your journey today.
That's it for now. And make us a habit, hanging out at the Behavioral Corner. And when we're not hanging, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on the Behavioral Corner.